Nobody saw this coming, not even the biggest skeptics. The Seahawks just went scorched earth, cutting a $21 million tight end and turning everything upside down just days before training camp. This is Ethan Carter, and the brutal question hanging over Seattle is, are we witnessing a disguised rebuild or a calculated revolution? Noah Fant out, a promising rookie stepping up, unexpected defensive moves, and a potential game-changer on the offensive line. All of this in a mere 72 hours. Coincidence, strategy, or desperation? One thing's for sure, the 12th man's ground just shook, and the reason will leave you breathless. Ready to understand what's really going down? Well, Seahawks faithful, before we dive into the details of this Monday's breaking news, a quick favor from me to you. If you've been following the Seahawks Insider Report and you dig our analysis, please, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. It's crucial for the channel and for our Seahawks fan community to keep growing. Thanks a million for your support. It exploded like a bomb in the middle of the preseason. The Seattle Seahawks released Noah Fant, their starting tight end and a central piece of the Russell Wilson trade, just 1 year after signing him to a $21 million extension. This isn't the kind of decision you make on impulse, and it carries more layers than meets the eye. Fant was coming off 3 consistent seasons, always racking up over 400 yards, and even in 2024, with the offense in turmoil, he delivered 500 yards and 48 receptions. Numbers that, while not spectacular, signaled precious stability in a transitioning roster. So, why cut him now? The answer lies in the cap. By releasing Fant, Seattle saves a whopping $9 million between base salary and per-game bonuses. This, combined with the departures of Geno Smith, Lockett, and even DK Metcalf, suggests something bigger: a silent rebuild or a strategic retooling with full focus on 2026. Coach Mike Macdonald stated that the cut opens space for new names. And the timing of his comment right after Elijah Arroyo's contract signing doesn't seem like a coincidence. In fact, pay attention here. Arroyo, a second-round pick, is the prototype of the modern tight end. Fast, versatile, strong in blocking, and with a receiver's route tree. Macdonald has already spilled the beans. This guy can do X-receiver stuff. You can line him up inside, outside, and create bigger packages. The comparison with Fant isn't unfair. It's strategic. While Fant was reliable, Arroyo can be explosive. And that difference in the new offense led by Clint Kubiak could be everything. GM John Schneider himself didn't hide that he sees top 15 talent in Arroyo, who only fell in the draft due to his injury history. The bet is clear: more youth, more ceiling, more aggression. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Arroyo hasn't played a professional snap yet, is coming off injuries, and now carries the weight of replacing a solid veteran. The risk is real, but the potential reward is enormous. And the emotional factor? Fant was one of the last remnants of the post-Legion era. That difficult transition many of us witnessed firsthand. His departure is symbolic, and perhaps painful for some fans. After all, anyone who followed the Russ trade drama knows Fant was part of the hope for reconstruction. Now that hope changes its name and number: Elijah Arroyo, 85. The question remains, can he handle the pressure? Because the front office's gamble doesn't stop there. And the next move will show that no one in Seattle is playing around this preseason, ready to understand why the defense was the next target and what that says about the real plans for 2025. Out of nowhere, Seattle created space, cleared cap room, and then struck where no one expected: on defense. A day after cutting Noah Fant, the Seahawks announced 2 new additions, and these aren't random names. Cam Alexander and Justin Rogers arrive with a clear message: this coaching staff is building a heavy, versatile, and unconventional rotation. Starting with Cam Alexander. The name might not sound familiar, but the tape doesn't lie. Coming from UTSA and Sam Houston State, Cam is a defensive back with sharp instincts, above-average route recognition, and tackling intensity. In a hybrid system like Mike Macdonald's, players like him, who can alternate between nickel, safety, and even a more physical corner, are chess pieces. But the major visual impact comes from Justin Rogers, 6'3", 338 pounds, a true nose tackle. Drafted by the Cowboys in the 7th round in 2024, he bounced around the Bengals practice squad and returned to Dallas until being released in June. Seems like a modest resume, right? But when you read between the lines, the move makes sense. Rodgers is exactly the type of player McDonald and the new defensive coordinator want to mold. Raw, with a low center of gravity, excellent against the run, and with development potential in double-gap schemes. On a team that struggled with defensive interior consistency in 2024, especially in base formations, Rodgers could be the plug needed to free up linebackers like Boy Mafe and Uchenna Nwosu. Plus, he's cheap, hungry for opportunity, and fits perfectly into the rotation with Jarran Reed and the promising Cameron Young. This tactical read, however, hides something even deeper. The Seahawks are betting big on moldable youth. Both Cam and Rodgers are physical profile gambles, but with technical room for rapid evolution. What does this mean? That Seattle is tired of expensive veterans who deliver little and wants a defense that breathes energy, explosiveness, and adaptability. It's a philosophy that, with due caution, echoes the early years of the Legion of Boom. Underestimated players fit into specific roles, growing together and forming a unit with an identity. Is it too bold to make that parallel? Perhaps. But if you saw how Earl Thomas, Cam Chancellor, and Sherman emerged, you know it all starts with a gamble, and these two signings say more about the 2025 DNA than they seem to at first glance. Now the lingering question is, will this bold tactical plan find support on the offensive line? Because the next card might involve a name that has everything to explode in Seattle if the front office has the guts to close the deal. Imagine a concrete wall being put up in the middle of a storm. That's what Dalton Risner's name represents right now for the Seahawks. The growing interest in Risner isn't just a locker room rumor, it's a reflection of a surgical diagnosis. Seattle knows the current offensive line can't endure another season like 2024, when the team gave up 54 sacks and turned any offensive plan into dust. Risner, with 81 starts and an almost impeccable durability record, only 4 games missed in 5 years, would be the antidote. And what's more, he's cheap. He's coming off a modest contract with the Vikings and is a free agent right now in July. In other words, the financial fit exists, especially after Noah Fant's departure. But what truly makes him a strategic piece is his direct connection to offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak's outside zone scheme, with whom Risner has already worked in Denver. This scheme demands lateral mobility, movement reads, and aggression on the line, 3 characteristics Risner masters. And if you follow the Seahawks closely, you know, this was one of the OL's biggest weaknesses in recent years. Players lost on stretch plays, stifling the run and exposing the QB. Now think, you bring Risner in to play left guard next to Charles Cross, and suddenly you have a reliable blind side to protect Sam Darnold. That changes everything, especially with new offensive line coach John Benton and consultant Rick Dennison, who know Risner from previous systems and can get the most out of the veteran. But it doesn't stop there. There's an emotional and symbolic factor in this move. Risner is the kind of player who wears the jersey, silent leadership, a locker room example, and a hunger to prove he's still elite. And let's be honest, that kind of mentality has been missing in Seattle since the days of Max Unger and Russell Okung. The on-field impact would be immediate, but the impact on developing young players, like Mike Jarrell, could be even more lasting. The front office knows that the adaptation time for rookie offensive linemen is long. And if you want to protect a new QB and stabilize a transitioning system, you can't just rely on kids. Risner delivers solidity, tactical fit, and cost effectiveness. The question now is whether Schneider will act fast or let the player slip away to competitors like the Vikings or Bengals, who have already shown interest, because if they hesitate, Seattle could see another talent slip through their fingers. And that brings us to the next piece of this puzzle, the rookie who could be the pivot of this entire offensive transformation and who has already signed his contract. He signed. It's done. Elijah Royo, the most talked about rookie of the offseason, is now officially a Seahawks player with a 4-year, $8.8 million contract, $6.8 million of which is guaranteed. And if anyone still doubted that the team is putting their chips on him, the timing of the signing, right after Noah Fant's release, says it all. Royo is now the centerpiece of the new era's offensive plan. This kid is different. At 6'3", 240 lbs, and with a style reminiscent of modern NFL hybrids, he's not just a tight end, he's a mutant chess piece. In Miami, even limited by injuries, he showed explosiveness, body control, and rare instinct on routes. He had 35 receptions, 590 yards, and 7 TDs, and that was playing with average QBs and inconsistent offenses. Now, in Seattle, he'll have Sam Darnold as his partner. And yes, I know Darnold doesn't excite many people, but let's remember, versatile TEs have always been the best friends of QBs in reconstruction. Look at what happened with Mark Andrews and Lamar Jackson, for example. Royo can be that safety net, but more than just safety, the coaching staff's plan is aggressive. Mike McDonald was clear. This guy can do everything. Line up in the slot, out wide, as an X receiver. He's a nightmare for defenses. And he's right. Royo opens up Kubiak's playbook in a way no tight end in Seattle has since perhaps Jimmy Graham, but with much more ability to block and contribute in heavy formations. Imagine what you can build with Royo attack in the middle, Jackson Smith and Jigba on short routes, and Charbonnet or Walker out of the backfield. It's a positive matchup on almost every play. The most incredible part, he's 21 years old, so if he performs, Seattle has an offensive pillar for almost a decade. But let's talk about pressure, because it exists. With Fant gone, with the fans expecting immediate impact, with the media already projecting comparisons to names like Kyle Pitts and Sam Laporta, Royo is going to have to produce, not in 2027, now. The bonus, he wants it. I love to compete. I want to prove I belong in the NFL. Strong words, but they need to be backed up on the field. The good news is the locker room has already bought in. The veterans are impressed with his practice ethics and tactical intelligence. And if there's a group that knows how to identify raw talent, it's this one. So, fans, remember this name. Elijah Royo, the project star, the bold gamble, the link between reconstruction and the future. But can all this youth sustain a competitive team as early as 2025? Because in the end, the answer goes far beyond the field and involves who we are as a fan base, as a city, as a legacy. This isn't just a roster adjustment, it's a statement. The Seahawks are tearing up the cautious playbook and betting big on youth, speed, and risk. Fant out, Royo as the anchor, Cam and Rodgers shoring up the trenches, and maybe Risner completing the wall. Are we on the cusp of a turnaround or a leap into the unknown? History has taught us that Seattle only shines when it dares. 2025 could be the start of something epic or another frustrating cycle. The question is direct. Do you see the spark of this new era? Enjoyed the breakdown? Drop your take in the comments, goals.